KJ Studios. Back in the lab. I had to put down this funky beat. Why? Because my brother from another mother on the phone, Langley, Hampton Roads, Langley African American Heritage Council. My boy, Air Force vet retired, Terrell Duckworth, now representing Legal Shield. What's up, Terrell? How you doing, brother?
Hey, Chief, it's good to hear from you, man. I'm doing great, brother. If I was doing any better, my hair started growing back.
Oh my goodness, man! It's been a minute, but we've always stayed in contact on Facebook, man. But you sound like you're doing good, man. And so I kind of gave that little rough draft intro about you, but I think I don't think I could ever do you a service. But what I will ask you before you introduce yourself is was the introduction with that music, do you give it a good grade? Because if not, I don't want to let you down. So on a scale of 5, where are we going with this?
Brother, I love it. I'm going to be honest with you. I love that beat because it's mellow. It calms you down, brings your nerves down, and gets you chilled to get right into the conversation. So I don't care about nobody else, but if I do it again, please keep that beat rolling.
Yep. And so during an interview, you're okay, with some humor and all that other kind of good stuff?
Please do it. Because what I've always been told, laughter leads the listener.
Oh, my gosh. So that brings me to a story. Guess who I just talked to?
Who's that?
These nuts.
Got him! Got him!
Oh!
Okay.
What?
Oh man. Okay.
You said humor was allowed, so
maybe I should have watched your other interviews a little more closely, and I would have been ready for that one.
So Terrell, brother, before you introduce yourself, let me tell you something. I said I will stop doing that when someone doesn't fall for it. So yeah, that's kind of my measuring stick, and now it's out there. So those who listen now know when people stop falling for it, they be like, "Yeah, dog, you're not gonna get me with that." Then I'm like, "All right, I gotta come up with something new." So, brother, please introduce yourself to the listeners, man.
Hey, awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Chief. Like Chief said, I just retired from the Air Force. I was in for 23 years, and one of my last assignments, like you said, was right there at Langley Air Force Base, working in the IG. That's where I met Chief at when he was a senior at the time, and I was a master sergeant at the time, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed our time and what we did. I enjoyed what the Air Force did for me, but I was like, this is a young man's game, so it's time for me to roll. So I jumped out of that, and me and my wife, we actually took our talents to Jacksonville, Florida. So we're actually living in Jacksonville, Florida right now. So we got a little bit of warm weather, but not probably as warm as Vegas right now.
Oh.
So that's, yeah. Little bit of a shock right there, huh?
Oh my goodness, Florida. That's
yes,
that's kind of like considered the mecca of like where to go and retire, especially for military folks. I've always been convinced to go to Florida.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, I'm actually originally from Miami, and my dad, he was in the military too, so I'm a military brat. We did about the same amount of time, and but I would never go back to Miami, not because I don't love it, but because my retirement will get cut short because it's too expensive. My money goes a lot further here in Jacksonville than it does in Miami.
Yeah, that's why I didn't go back to California either, man. Like Las Vegas is where it's at for me. I never in my life believed, like I've visited here, and I got here and I immediately fell in love. I was, I had interviewed another gentleman and I was telling him, I said, I can be Walmart Kevin at lunch. And then I can be Louis Vuitton on the Strip,
Nice.
all like, damn, I messed it up. I was gonna say Gucci'd out, but no, let's mix it up, right? Gucci'd out with my wife, going to see Backstreet Boys or Mariah or Jabberwockies, and then back to Walmart Kevin,
Exactly.
But man, let me tell you, I think you have a lot to offer the listeners, so I have a lot of folks that I think it's expanding. Remember I told you, I said, when we transition, it is hard. When we transition, it's something new. When we go from a life of military out to the private sector and we try to become something different, leadership lenses and perspectives and paradigms change. But I think it's important for the listeners to understand something from two old wise men. I'm old wise man. You're, probably still like what's the word? Like you're probably new hotness and I'm old busted like Bad Boys.
Oh,
right?
Here we go.
And you immediately rolled into something. I think if I remember right, like when you retired, you had already started setting up your path, building your blocks into what you do as a legal shield. But I want to make sure that we understand before we get into that, which we absolutely will. You also got a lot of listeners out there that were like us. We were young. My paychecks didn't go into stocks or into my future. They went into my herringbone necklaces and we used to have them stereo wars in the dorms. So,
oh yeah.
Right. So I was trying to buy the most powerful amplifier. And remember back in the days, every Tuesday when AFEs released the CDs and DVDs, that's,
oh yeah.
And I just want to make sure because me and you were supposed to pass on that wisdom and the mistakes we made. So if you wouldn't mind, besides, the introduction of being welcome to Miami, significantly better than Will Smith, right?
Right.
Talk about your journey through the Air Force a little bit first. And, some of the lessons learned, and then we'll just, I bet you it'll explode into a dialogue that absolutely every one of the people who serve and hold the stick for us now that we're old and retired and the true blue ID crew, what they can relate to and how you grew and evolved.
No, I appreciate that. Actually me coming into the Air Force, the funny thing was my dad, he was a personnelist. I probably hope you don't mind me saying this, but when I was looking at going in, he actually brought home, I forgot the book is called, but it was just basically had all the jobs in there. Okay. And he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, well, you got to do something because you're not staying here eating my food. So you got to go do something. And I was flipping through it. I'll be honest with you. You know how I chose my career field? Right? Was I found one of the shortest tech schools in the Air Force.
Which one was that one?
I was it was Aviation Resource Management is the title of the career field.
Okay.
And so I chose it based upon that. But then I read the job description. And of course, you know how it works, Chief. They make it sound so sexy. I mean, I was thinking like, oh man, I've been working with pilots. I may get a chance to fly a plane. I'm about to do all kinds of stuff. And when I got in, I got through tech school, it was like, all right, here's some paperwork. Make sure the pilots sign this and do this and do whatever they need and basically babysit the pilots. I was like, no, that's not what recruiter should. That's not what the book said. So I was thrown off. I was totally thrown off. I was like, what did I just sign for? And that's kind of my start with getting going to it. But the one thing I learned as I was going through, because I spent a lot of my time around officers. So one of the things in my career field, maybe unlike some others, is you run a lot of other listed folks. You may have one or two officers you may see. Obviously, you got a commander, directing officer, but you don't deal with officers often versus where we go from baby to teenager to almost adult right off the bat because you're around officers. So you have to carry yourself in a certain manner, in a certain way. And we're talking about our decision making is dealing with safety of flight. So if we make bad decisions, not saying it can be an instant safety incident, but it can lead to a safety incident.
Right.
So we had to grow up real quickly. I'm not knocking any other career field because I know cops, they deal with a whole bunch of other stuff, but it was something that I didn't realize, and I started gaining a better level of respect of what I was going to embark on in my career field and my career. And that's where everything got started. And I don't know if you want to run through every base, but how do you want me to roll it? Do you want me to talk about bases or just a quick down and dirty on my just quick lessons learned and stick with that?
Well, let me do this. Let me tell you, because I want to piggyback. Oh, such an annoying term, huh? I'm going to piggyback off of what you said about how I got into the Air Force, and then we'll see where that goes, right? So
okay.
How about that, right? So, I went in open general. And we're
Ooh.
talking about sexy jobs because I wanted to be a cop.
Ooh.
I thank the good Lord that when I went to, so I went open general and basic, they send you to CBPO. I don't know if it was MPF or it was CBPO when I went there. And they put out all these jobs in front of you. And they're like, all right, based on your ASVAB, pick one.
Mm.
So I'm going through the folders and I'm like, hey, there's no cops. There's no cops. My recruiter in MEPS told me there would be a cop job by this time. They're like, no, there's not. So pick, right? And so this guy had 4 stripes, which means I was terrified of him. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what's this thing, MWR? And he was like, you're going to pass out basketballs. So I was a basketball player, if you remember when, the haters on the IG team hurt me, Corey Ship, right? Cause I was destroying them. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what motivated me about MWR?
What's that?
I was like, bro, I'm going to work in the gym and there's all these girls in there.
Oh, here we go.
Right.
There we go.
I was 17. What do you expect?
Right.
And so I went to do MWR, which merged with services. And and so anyways, that was my motivation. Obviously I was on the wrong path, which is, why, when I retired, I had to jump right into employment. But no, I would say, I don't know. I mean, if I wouldn't say you have to go base to base, but I would definitely say, okay, you definitely told me that, you picked something and it wasn't what it was, right? And that sounds like to me something that can be catalyzed off of throughout your career, where maybe you made some choices or these younger folks make some choices and it doesn't necessarily turn out to be what it is. Did you, from these lessons in life, what did you learn from that? What?
So obviously, I was taught to, ask more questions.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing I learned to do from that point on. And when I rolled into my career, we got, I don't know if it's still called PDG, right? Air Force Knowledge.
Yeah.
The first thing I learned in there was my money. I was like, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, Air Force history, I'll learn that eventually. How to wear the uniform, my supervisor yelled at me and tell me how to wear it. I was like, skip all that. Where's the money at? How do I get paid? Right. In fact, I went TDY. To Panama, and my wife was in at the time too. She was serving just like me. She came in. She was a 4A in the medical field, medical admin. And when I came back, I just knew that I was like, hey, I'm supposed to get the family separation pay. And I remember I read that because I was trying to make rank, right? But I knew the first thing I learned was money. I walked into the finance office and I said, hey, y'all missing some money from me. Y'all owe me family separation pay. And then young airman was like, no, you're not. So we're going back and forth. And finally the guy was like, yeah, actually he does. It's called part 2. She was like, oh, my bad. Sorry, sir. I said, I knew y'all owed me money. I knew it was something, right? Because I was like, the first thing I wanted to learn was how to make the money. Because one of the things in my career, this is where I kind of learned to love it. I got to go to different places working with the pilots. So that's where that love came in at, because I got to see more of the world than I would have if I'd have been maybe doing another career. Like my wife, she went TDY one time. Now, she was only there for 11 years. She went TDY one time, and I hope she don't mind me clowning her. I said, babe, where you going? She said, oh, man, I'm going. I was like, yes, I get the house to myself. I'm excited. I said, how long are you going? She said, oh, I'll be back on Monday. I said, wait, aren't you leaving Friday? I said, what kind of TDY is that? Because, when we went to TDY, it was 30 days, 45 days. It was you're gone. All this kind of stuff. So the bottom line is what it did for me was it gave me a better appreciation for my career field, because here's my wife serving. Obviously, a lot of people come in to go to different places. I'm getting to do it without having to actually deploy. And so that's where that love and appreciation came. So again, lessons learned of understanding and asking more questions, and that's why I ended up moving faster than I was supposed to. Where I got stuck at was, and this is a tip, when I came to making tech, when I made staff, it was the great, what they call a great staff giveaway. You remember how they said that?
Oh, yeah.
I came into that wave. And so I studied, but don't get me wrong, I wasn't killing it. When it came to making tech, I said, here's the difference. Making staff was like they asked you, what's the color of the cabinet? Making tech was like, okay, what's the color of the cabinet? What's in this third drawer, the fourth drawer? Bottom line is, when I got done with that, Chief, my first test, I couldn't remember my name. My head hurt so bad. I was like, but here's what the mess up is. I started asking and listening to people that didn't make rank fast, and I settled. And I said, oh, well, they didn't make rank fast. Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. Next thing you know, I start seeing people below me start to catch up to me.
Yeah.
So one of the things within what we do in Legal Shield is, one of the sayings they have is, if you buy someone's opinion, you buy their lifestyle. So if they don't have what you want, why are you listening to them? And that applies right there in the military. If somebody's not making rank fast, why are you hanging out with them? Why are you listening to them?
Right.
And that's why I messed up. That's what my career kind of studied as far as making rank. But I still learned a lot. I still enjoyed what I did.
Right.
You know, I still was saying, but that's where, you know, that's one of the lessons learned. So I'm pretty sure you got some insight on that too.
Well, I think so. First, I would say is you did less than what 1% would do, right? And if you remember what I put on Veterans Day, if everybody could do it, everybody still wouldn't. So thank you for your service and for what you did. To the amount of stripes that anyone has does not necessarily equate to being effective as a leader. I know, I don't even know how I made chief sometimes. But you know, and let me get back to what you're talking about is, Albert Einstein once said, it's not that I'm so smart. I just stay with the problem longer than most. And, you know, you were effective at where you were at. And I used to tell people, you know, I would have people all the time come to me like, Chief, I didn't make rank and X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bruh, it took me 4 times to make staff and 5 to make senior. And I said, but this is the deal though. And even when I made chief, you know, I didn't try to make chief. I really didn't. I made chief first time by over 100 points.
Wow.
And bro, I wanted out. I wanted out at Langley. Langley was supposed to be it. And, but I believe, you know, that God has a purpose in putting us where we're supposed to be. Would you agree? But we forget that when we're stuck in a spot, right?
Yeah.
and I tell folks, I said, you know, you volunteered to enlist knowing that only 1% achieve this. I was like, but this is the deal. I said, but this is the deal. Look between the chevrons. I said, I said, what did I lose along the way?
Yeah.
And compared to what you lost along the way. And towards the end, my mantra became, I really wish they would change service before self, because I think people like me really take that to heart. And if you don't take it to heart and let's say put your family a little bit more as a priority than just the mission, all of a sudden you're a fucking shitbag.
Yeah.
You know, or people lack the ability to accept, like, hey, I'm good. Like I interviewed an airman, young man. If you watch his interview, it's on there. And I said, dude, if you're happy where you're at, regardless of stripes on your arm, then you're good.
Yeah.
I said, there's plenty of miserable chiefs like me. I said, you know, I was like, bruh, you know what it's like when you put more stripes on? And this is something Terrell can relate to. The more stripes you put on, the bigger the target on your back is.
Oh, man.
The more you go home with these wounds that, oh, by the way, you better brush that shit off, because you still got to make a fair decision for me one day, even though you've heard through the grapevine that I badmouthed you, you know? And you, because you're older and wiser, you have to understand that, you know, like I always said, man, I remember when Airman James would be like, well, if I was the chief, I'd have did this. Our chief is garbage. And here's garbage ass Chief James. Like, yeah, I can't make that decision like that because it impacts too many people in a negative way. So, you know, the thing is people are supposed to learn from us, right? We've walked that walk. We've talked that talk. And I don't think as a leader, I don't think I ever really hid behind my rank. I don't want to say ever. I think I always tried to connect with people as people. Like I said, you were a master, I was a senior, but I don't think I ever came across like, hey, I'm senior James, you're so. We were both. You know, dude. People don't believe me when I tell them I was the vice president of the Langley African American Heritage Council.
Oh my goodness, I loved it when that was happening. Yeah,
you know what I mean. And they were like, really? I was like, because they were doing something. Not like these, like this is I said, I used this word and I shouldn't have, but I did. I said, not like these fucking fake busters in the top 3 who are just there to fill a bullet. I said, we were going out to, well, I called it the hood. It was right. I said, shit. I swear I had to pass by a crack house at the 4-way crossing before I got to the school. And my car was dropped and had music and wheels and I said, but I got to connect with underprivileged kids, and that meant more to me. And so, and so I think you were aware where you were supposed to be, and you achieved what you're supposed to achieve, and you put your efforts and focus where it was supposed to be.
Right.
And you ended up where you crossed the finish line with your family, right?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned, I was just telling to, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if she was there when you were there, but we called her Sergeant G. She worked in the front office. And I remember I just told her this comment. I can't remember the general's name. He said, look, you guys, you got to understand something. Your goal in the military is the same family you come in with is hopefully the same family you leave with. Now, I'm not saying, unfortunately, you stay in a marriage that doesn't work. He said, but that's your goal. But you got to balance that. So you have to realize this machine will move with or without you.
Yep.
So if you don't understand that, you're doing something wrong. Now, if you can make the rank, make it. In fact, I had one of my friends when I was at 19 years. I was busting my tail doing everything when I was in the IG. So I'm Master Sergeant now. Busting my tail doing everything I was doing in IG to make the rank. Here's my philosophy on this, and maybe Chief, you can correct or massage it a little bit. But what I was going to do was this: my epiphany that hit me. I said, look, up to 20 years, you're supposed to fight for every strike. After 20, you shouldn't be fighting for a strike. It should be to the point where you're just doing the right things to the point where it's that time that you're feeling like you said, you don't even know you may cheat. So it shouldn't be to the point where you're still fighting after 20. Because here's what I said to myself. Either I didn't listen to my mentors or I had the wrong mentors. I don't know which way. It might have been both. It might have been, a little bit of both on either side. But either way, I enjoyed my time when I was there. You saw me, man. I was always playing basketball. I did the African American Heritage thing just like you did. Right, I ran it. I was running it even while I was TBY, and we had some fun times and there was some down times. But like you said, going out to those prisons and dealing with those kids and seeing the smiles on their faces when we walk in and just spending time with them, doing something bigger than myself and helping the community was just key to me. And the ACC is the largest, obviously it's the largest community in the Air Force, right? Mm-hmm. And for my career field, I felt good helping those airmen. When I came in, I didn't come in and bust nobody's butt. When I came in, I say, hey, look, the first thing I will start with is this. I say, look, you be honest with me, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm here to help you. So if you're going to hide things from me, you got to deal with the mess. I'm going back home and spending time with my family. So let's make this go faster by being honest and open so we can get through this. Because if you have a problem, let's just identify the problem and let's get to work. See how much I can help you correct before I get back on that plane. Because I only have a couple of days on the ground. And because I started doing it, I started enjoying myself. So I don't regret not making rank. Now I wish I could. And my goal in making rank was my dad was a master sergeant. So my goal was to make senior. And I did beat him in time-wise, but I just didn't make that last strike. But I end with this part of it, leaving it on the table. Like every person that plays in the NFL doesn't win a Super Bowl ring. There are a lot of players that deserve it. Some that got it don't deserve it. Yeah. Now, no disrespect, right? Because they were just on the bench, right? But there are a lot of players that deserve it that didn't get the Super Bowl ring. So that's why I kind of calm myself down and say, hey, not everybody gets a Super Bowl ring, No. And so, like you said, bringing value. I had seen Master Sergeant in Chief asking me questions. Like, why are you asking me? I'm a Master Sergeant. Well, if you asking me this, I should make it right. Because but sometimes you still bring that value.
Because it's a natural safety net to get dumber with the stripes. So remember, and I'm not speaking for anything. I'm just speaking for Kevin James, and I call it the natural dumbing down of progressing in your career. Because, like, as an FSS chief, you got manpower, personnel, ALS, sustainment. Like, dude, like 8 Charlies in AFRC. It's better for me to just be a generalized leader with perspective to engage and help, to allow my seniors to run their flights. Does it make sense? So I would go to my subordinates all the time. And honestly, because I wanted them to grow. And, you know, most times I would say about 25% of your leadership hates you that week anyways, right? And well, no, I coined a term. I looked it up. I just shared it for the first time with someone and on Facebook. But you're familiar with the stock market, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So have you ever heard of LMV? Lima, Mike, Victor. I call it your leadership market value.
Gotcha.
Every stock is not always going up. And just like LeBron James or the best NFL player, people dislike him, sometimes for the wrong reasons. I like LeBron James. I think he's the best flopper out there. It's on video. I love his last name, but isn't he, to me, he's actually a true, to me, Kevin, and there's people who argue this, and this is factual. I'm like, he went to the NBA from high school, but go back before high school. His dad, he had no relationship with his dad. Right.
Right.
And look what he does for the communities.
Yeah.
And like, maybe that doesn't fit with someone's lens, but you know, you can't deny facts. And to me, like, he makes his choices to support and help, but someone will still criticize him on the court, right? Which is like Harden, Westbrook, right? Karl Malone. I grew up playing ball because of Karl Malone, and and he don't have a ring. And you know, when I got mad at him is when he went to the Fakers. I'm like, are you for real, dude?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, you should have left. You should have just left when Stockton left, because you're a Hall of Famer. Right. But he had his reasons. And so you are 100% right. So there's a saying, right? What percent of my leadership goes to the mission versus the people? And I think as you progress in stripes, they're both one and the same, but they're not. When I retired, I didn't think they were one and the same. Maybe that made me radical. Maybe that made me abrasive. Maybe that dropped my leadership market value. My leadership market value shot up when I remembered that I had airmen who didn't have, how can I say it? A lot of the message from the airmen was getting lost in translation, or it was never being delivered. And so I would plant seeds at that level and say, well, I am the chief. This is what I think. You should push it up just to see if it would ever get to me. Right. And it wouldn't. And it would get.
That's pretty smooth. I like that.
You know, and so, you know, it's tough no matter what, let me tell you, if everybody likes you in this, and I'll say this about some of my peers that that honestly, some of them I'm like, you're just a cheerleader. You can't actually lead and inspire. You are fooled that you're inspiring because you are catering to a lesser standard, and that makes you popular. Right? People are following you because you're popular too.
Yes.
I mean, even Charlie Sheen has a fan base.
But you know, Chief, you said something that ties into LeBron James, which is something I was going to mention. So when you say LeBron James, you know, like you said, didn't have a father, but he was doing all these great things in the community, right? When I think about that aspect is when you talk about people that have their supervisors, one of the things I should say is, you know how you get rid of your supervisor? Help them get promoted. Either you help them get promoted or you get promoted. One of the ways to give you a PCA assignment, right? Yeah. So don't complain about your supervisor. Help them get promoted, man. Help them study. It's like, man, I hope you make things so you get out of here, right? You know, so, and then the other aspect of it is, to go back to LeBron James' example, was if you don't like what your supervisor does, then put that in your toolbox. I'll never do that. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. I'll never do. So don't sit there complaining all day about what they don't do. Start saying, hey, when I get to that position, this is how I'm going to run things. This is how I'm going to do things. And some of the times you're going to realize your supervisor had to make those decisions because you didn't have the big window that they had. You don't see and hear from the commanders and the things in the different leadership that's telling them stuff. And sometimes I used to tell my airmen, say, hey, I'm going to tell you something like that. If I am fully behind something, you will hear me say fully behind something. I said, if I'm not, I'm going to say, hey, guys, let's just get this done. I said, I'm only going to tell you that one time because I don't want you to think I'm against my leadership. But what I'm sharing with you is not that I always support it, but there's bigger, better battles to fight. And what you don't realize is I'm keeping you away from this heat over here, but I can't tell you because you're not ready to understand that. Because if I tell you this, you're going to run off telling, hey, well, Master Duckworth said the commander's wrong, and isn't it? They can't handle that conversation.
Yeah. Well, you got.
So when you get in my position, you'll understand it. But go ahead, Chief.
You got to remember, the student is only ready to learn when they see the teacher. So
exactly,
you know what I mean. But this is how I handled it through my 28 plus years. I just always outperformed my boss, but I gave him credit. Because as a follower, I would outperform him, but I understood. I would be. So again, all right. So most people don't know one of my favorite actors is Denzel Washington. I don't get into all the hoopla about why he won his first Oscar Emmy was because he had to portray himself as a crooked cop in Training Day. But he said it. He said, Officer Hoyt. It's chess, not checkers. I've been planning this shit all week. And I just said that on our last interview, right? And so to me, anyone who is a boss, right? I mean, as long as you're not like trying to like smash my old lady or, you know, you're not like saying, hey, you're a fucking idiot, which I never ran across that. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I never ran across that. Most of them lacked esteem or capability, but they were academics. Right. And why I think the promotion system promoted a lot of idiots because they were book smart. Then you get them out in the field and it's like, hey, Airman James. Right. And guess what I did? I knocked it out of the park for him. And at the end of the day, I became reliable to him. I wasn't looked at as rebellious. I wasn't looked at as rebel as a cause. And at the end of the day, it's a fucking game.
It is.
So, you know, all right, let's go to basketball, right? And I always laugh at these clowns, you know, Mr. 13th seat, who's never going to play, whose job is to fucking swing on someone's nuts or high five them or do their dance on the sideline. I'm like, bro, you get no play time. Just sit down. Yeah. But they got to roll. They got to roll, right? And even the coach is watching because at the end of the day, it's about making that money. So I always outperformed my boss because I was learning, and I was learning how to be a follower because you have to learn to follow to be a leader. And why expend energy on bitching and complaining when the stripes say this is the one who's in charge? But guess what happened, right? So remember I told you it took me 4 times to make staff and 5 to make senior. Senior, that you know, that's a whole different monster. When you start going for the boards and stuff like that, now you got masters going for the board. Even today, I think it's about who's the best writer. Honestly, you can't tell me there's no data skewed in there that says people are getting promoted because they have someone who's a great writer or they fall in a tribe. There are some people who are hard workers not getting promoted, but there's also deserving promotions that are taking place. I don't know the metrics on that. But what I did was I worked hard. I did what I was told. I volunteered. I was never afraid to say yes. And I think maybe 4 times in 28 years, I challenged my boss. And I paid the price. But I also remember we came up back in the day. This is what I tell people. Use your energy to continue to better yourself, not to be frustrated because today, you'll hear on another interview I did, I said, we got to a point where, you know, it was like Mr. or Mrs. subpar performer who was being held accountable. They would just run to the IG, right? Because think about it. You know, I don't like being held accountable. So I'm just going to run to the IG. And then when it's unsubstantiated and then that boss tries to rate me fairly on EPR, then I'm going to say they reprised against me because they didn't like me. Right. And so while it's not a perfect system, look, the last stat I was given was like 80% of those complaints were referred to the commander level, which means people are just in the habit of going there. What happened to the back in the day when I came in and your dad was in and my dad was in? They said, use your fucking chain of command. How do you as a leader look when you're basically being told by someone who has a badge? And, by the way, I mean, you both wore that badge. Maybe not in the Q perspective, but we wore the badge. And we took the oath. How do I feel as a former IG, now chief, being told that it's restriction because I'm trying to tell my folks, like, how come you don't want to use your chain of command? Like, I'm like, and I'm like, and who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, you don't even know what's going on out here, you know? Right. And they don't understand the amount of time and energy and the amount of soul that is stolen from a leader who cares enough to try to grow people who don't want to hear the tough shit. Then they got to go home to their families and be like, man, like, am I a fuck up? Am I right? Am I wrong? And now they're attacking my character.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I would say, bro. You did everything that was based on your battle rhythm, and you did your best.
Right.
You were always present.
Yep.
You were always at the table. And at the end of the day, guess what you are? You like me, dog, when you go through the gate. Ain't shit.
Right.
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 Because you pull out that blue ID card. But I it's funny because I actually have more fun going through the gate now because I don't expect a custom and courtesy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would go through the gate and I would get some half-ass, like, you know, shitty attitude from a one striper. And I was like, damn, 27 years ago, I was you. I don't even think you were born. You can't say good morning, chief, right? But this is the culture shift we went to. I had a group chief who had the fucking nerve to fucking tell chiefs, like, I can't believe the arrogance of some chiefs who want to demand, you know, some respect, because do they understand what that kid's going through standing at that gate during the summer? You know, I don't give a fuck. Like a damn, like, I don't fuck with you, right? Like really? Like, so wait a minute. I got more time deployed in combat than this person does. And oh, by the way, it's hot in the desert too, in case you forgot. Yeah. And I'm wrong for expecting a custom and courtesy at achieving what only 1% make. And guess what that told me? Man. Like, you're the reason why shit's fucked up. And oh, by the way, you were probably handpicked because some colonel who's a chicken shit to have any kind of real perspective won't hire real chiefs. They just need someone who's going to get in line and just, you know, here's my coffee.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, bruh. Yeah. You know, they got to get that Kool-Aid in there. And so, and I'm not knocking, I'm telling the story from my lens because that's what I think it was. And at the end of the day, I bowed out. I was tired, and bro, but this ain't about me. Shit, look at man, I spent just like 8 minutes. But you know what? Maybe it gave you perspective to say, okay, you know what? I wasn't alone.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate it too. Trust me, I look back on everything, and I'll say this final word. I know we're gonna jump into this last part real quick. But to me, the perspective I got, I looked at it as now I can go back and help other people. Make it faster, do things better. Because I still have people that reach out to me and ask me questions. In fact, the captain today asked me for some ODPRs, which is funny. Because I'm like, you know how long I've been out? But anyway, so, you know, the impact you have on people, you never really know. And that, to me, is the most important thing. Like you said, the stripes, great, is given. It's more money. You can do more things with it. But the reality is, how did you impact those people's lives? That, to me, means way more than you're wearing a stripe, because at the end of the day, it can't be about money. Yeah. You know, it can't be about money because you can get out and make way more, like you just said, doing other things. And that's where I was at. To end my part of my career was literally my back was hurting. I was doing weights only. I got tired of, you know, being harassed. Like, oh, you're only doing weights only. I'm like, look, you know what? If this is going to be a problem, it's time for me to roll. So there's a lot of little things I saw as like, you know, writing on the wall that it's like, hey, it's time to roll. I'm done. I'm done fighting.
Bro, they're not even doing waist measurements next month because of stress and the holidays and fucking.
Oh my goodness. So,
you know, anyway, that's just another Charmin bear sitting up on policy. But this is what I would tell you, man. And I've gone through a lot of professional development outside the military, and I think that's where we kill ourselves. Is we self-grow each other with like-minded military type leaders, right? But this is one thing that I think will tie into what you said, and then let's move on to Legal Shield and what you're doing for folks out there, because this is actually a good segue, right? And this goes back to what you said about your time in service. Is your impact tied to your growth, and what growth investments have you not made because of constraints? You know, and you shifted, you moved on, you're successful, you got your family, and now you're doing the Legal Shield thing. So what is it? You know, did what you do in the military, was this like a good transition? Is it something you always knew you wanted to do? Was there an epiphany? You
know, Actually, the funny thing about this, Chief, I actually started a way longer than most people think I've been doing this. I've actually been doing this right at 17 years.
Oh, you was hustling.
I was hustling.
Side hustling.
Side hustling.
You know, with the guy I interviewed, he does side hustle. Larry McClelland, right? And his interview will be out too. Side hustle. Tell me about your side hustle while you were serving, because I don't think that horse does. I don't think we do a good job as leaders at inspiring people to create a side hustle. I think it's mission. And how dare you not focus on the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this side hustle.
Yeah. So to put it in layman's terms, a legal shield is it gives you the ability to talk to an attorney without worrying about the hourly cost. Most people will not contact an attorney if they worry about the hourly cost. In fact, I wrote down some stuff just to make sure I stayed on track. Like, perfect example, one of the things I was jotting down in my notes and stuff, I said, Chief, think over the years of while you were in, right? How many times do you have to cancel an airman after the fact of decision making? Because that's really what it comes down to with legal shield and the law and dealing with attorneys. It's our decision making. You know, I put an example. I said, look, think about it like this. What if I walked in your office and I said, hey, Chief, I did something this weekend. Normally you're like, oh, God, what did you do, Duckworth, right? What did you get yourself into, right? But what if I said this? I said, me and my wife went out. We went to this interview. It was about a timeshare. They broke it down to $50. And the next thing in your mouth like, no, Duckworth, tell me you didn't do it. Well, guess what? I didn't. You want to know why? Because when I was sitting there, one of the provisions within this membership is it allows you to do contract and document review. So I faxed the contract over to Legal Shield. Now, they normally take 72 hours to review. They have up to 72 hours to review. But because I was at a timeshare, it was pretty standard. They went ahead and took it and did it and they said, hey, we'll get back to you in a couple of hours. They call him back in a couple of hours. So, of course, the guy, he's wrangling. He's, telling me all these good things we're going to give with this timeshare. By the time I got done, the attorney interviewed me and asked me several questions. And she said, how often do you take a vacation? I was like, I mean, you mean at grandma's house? I was like, no. She was like, no, like vacation. And then she asked me several other questions. She's like, Mr. Duckworth, that doesn't fit you. I said, but it's $50 a month. I can afford it. She said, trust me, you don't know how many times we've had people that sign up for this and come back and regret it. Now they're trying to use an attorney to get out of it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is they prevented me from making a decision that would have cost me long term. So the way I look at this product right here is not just for the civilian population, but especially our airmen. If they would have had somebody you can refer them to and have them before they sign that contract, before they do that, they come with that brand new car with the 30% interest rate, right? But it's shiny and they're loving it. And then you as a chief going to say, hey, man, why aren't you paying your bills? I don't know, Chief. I don't know what happened. You got to send them to financial counseling, right? Yeah. So one of the major things it does is to prevent decision making. Now, I know for me, myself, I use it several times throughout my career. Like one of the major times is I was renting an apartment right there in Lane. It was my first time stationed there. And I actually I paid my rent, but I paid on the last day. Don't do that at home, folks. And they said I paid my rent late, even though it wasn't. It was a difference of opinion of timing, right?
Yeah.
And one of my friends told me, say, oh, don't mess with the thing. It's a scam. You got JAG. Just use JAG. And I hear it a lot with my military compadres. And I'm like, hey, my first question to them is, how often do you use JAG? Do you call JAG if you got a problem with the cleaners? Do you call JAG if your son did something off base? Do you call JAG? And then a lot of times it's no. No. And a lot of times JAG they're limited. It's not that they're no good. They're just limited. So here it is, JAG versus Legal Shield. And what happens, I took the situation to JAG. I made my appointment. When I got done, they said, well, the only thing we can do is make a phone call on your behalf. I said, what do I do after that? They was like, I don't know, Sergeant Duckworth, you got to figure it out. I was like, wow. So I called this service. This thing better work. Long story short, I mean, when you talk to an attorney, they're going to charge you at $300 to $500 an hour. So let's go with just $300 an hour on the low end. Yeah. They made 3 phone calls to me, 2 to the other attorney, 1 to the landlord. By the time they got done, I didn't have to pay the $400 they was trying to charge me for being late, which I wasn't. And I didn't have to pay for each one of those phone calls, which is about $1,800 worth of work. Yeah. And I was like, okay, Mr. Attorney, tell me, how much I owe you? It's got to be $200, $300 something. I got to be sorry, Mr. Duckworth. That was all included in your membership.
Oh,
I said,
wow.
shut your mouth. I said, wait. You're telling me I'm paying $20 and you did $1,800 worth of work? I said, man, I got to tell everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what started me into doing this. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this is amazing.
Well,
where can you go to get that kind of return?
I got to be honest with you, more than the return. So the return is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you can relate to this. How many times did we find ourselves as young airmen or just people too embarrassed to ask questions, especially in the military? I didn't want to go, dude. Your business being discreet versus on the street is the number one reason I think why people end up getting deeper into trouble when we serve, because we're embarrassed, right? And that's all ranks. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to legal ask that. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, what's this shit growing around, on my body? We suffer in silence.
Right.
And we had a culture of suicide. Right. And I think, based on with the dollar value, but more than that, just having somewhere you can go to and be like, hey, I just don't know. And then you have the background, right? And then, no doubt you probably can, you can research the military law, or, even reach out as a retiree and ask like, hey, what's, and I think there's a level of discretion that is priceless for the anxieties that we have bottling things up and asking questions. Because we deal with divorce, we deal with adultery. We got folks trying to like throw each other under the bus. We got people plotting revenge. It
is like, I give you an example. This actually came from one of the guys in the Navy. He was having his stuff shipped, and of course, it's the standard thing. He had mold on his furniture, took it to the TMO, because whatever they call it in the Navy. Our version is TMO, right? Mm-hmm. And he's going to say, hey, well, here's what we do for you. We'll get you $3,500, and you're going to get your money in about 46 weeks. He said, what am I supposed to sleep on until then? He said, be glad you're getting $3,500. Now, his wife signed him up for the service. He didn't know what in his body. He's like, babe, call Legal Shield. She said, what is a legal shield? It's, because he was out on the ship, doing the thing, and his wife approached her, shared it with her. She saw the value, and she said, call Legal Shield. Get this. Not only did Legal Shield cut the wait time down to 2.5 weeks, the return he got was $23,415.
Oh, wow.
So you think about that. And that's why I try to get people to slow down and listen, because most people think, well, I'm not a criminal, I don't get in trouble. Brother, my stories I share with you is not about criminal. Now, they do handle criminal situations. It is at a discounted rate because they don't want to encourage bad people to do worse things, right? But the reality is, every story I have, we could have started at 3 o'clock my time, and filled an hour of stories, how I use it and my wife used the service. And it is amazing how they're doing it. In fact, obviously I know you're on your home, correct?
What's that now? When I do this?
You know what I'm saying? You own your own home, correct?
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that you either use contractors or maybe plan to use a contractor, right?
Yes.
At some point?
Like if I'm going to have some building and stuff done to deal with the HOAs or anything like that, potentially, yeah.
Right. Maybe you want to modify your home or start. We had a member that went through that, but for the sake of time, I'm going to jump to the end. The bottom line is they put a mechanics lien against his house because the subcontractor did some shady stuff, and he ended up contacting Legal Shield. Now, the retainer for a mechanics lien, at least in South Carolina, was $20,000, just a retainer.
Yeah.
Because he was part of Legal Shield and the provision that it fell under, he didn't have to pay the $20,000 retainer. But get this. By the time Legal Shield got done, the contractor had to pay the guy $45,000.
Oh, wow. So this is huge, man.
It is. And I'm telling you, like I said, I can definitely fill it up. Man, we even have identity theft. And most people don't even know that. They don't even understand that. I had a lady the other day, she called me, and I'm not even joking. She called me crying on the phone profusely, like just crying, because somebody had been tapped in her 401k. They were getting credit cards in her name. They were taking out, they were trying to take out a loan in her name. She changed her address because she kept getting all this mail. She changed it back. The mail started coming again. And identity theft is so crazy. But because I'm gonna say it in a short condensed version, what is the difference between us and most other companies? We use licensed private investigators, and they sign a one-page affidavit, and they go to work while you're at work. Most of the companies, what they do is they'll tell you what to do, advise you, you go do the work. But guess what, Chief? When are companies? Most companies are open when you're at work.
Yep.
So how do you solve your own problem when you're at work?
Oh, bro. And you know what? And when you transition out, folks don't realize it's not like in the military where you just ask your boss, hey, I need to go to legal or do blah, blah, blah while I'm on duty. When you work,
right.
When you're on the outside, it's like, yo, well, I guess you're taking PTO or.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a different world. And that's, I appreciate that plug because I think, we obviously care about our military community, right? And I know that's not just your client, but both of us, that's our world we came from, It
is.
And so there's a lot of perspective they don't get, like all that stuff to handle. That's kind of the perk to what you do is like, look, we trying to handle your issues that you may want some discretion with.
Right.
And we're not trying to like murder you. And legal fees are usually pretty expensive.
Right, because you talked about child custody, so I know you know. I know you know that all too well.
Yeah, man, I do. So, and I can tell you what though, man, I definitely know. I know someone who absolutely could have used your guys' services. You know who that is?
Who's that?
These nuts.
Here we go. Man.
I didn't let it. No, I'm just messing. I wanted to throw some humor in there real quick, man.
Oh man, that's good. I like that.
No,
I like that. Okay.
You gave me the green light. Remember, it's on tape.
Hey, brother, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a good thing, and I tell you what. To me, and that's the reason why. To me, this is a way that I feel like I can give back and still serve the community because I'm helping, individuals, and we also have plans that to protect small business owners too. Because we're out of time, I don't want to go deep into that, but we have plans to help small business owners, law officers, people that have a CDL license, truck drivers, right? Even if they're Uber drivers, we have gun plans. So there's a multitude of things that we can offer and help a person. But I basically try to interview them and understand what's going on in their life to figure out what fits them best. Because especially with COVID going on with small business owners, all these decisions being made. I watched this thing on Don't Beat Me Up crowd, MSNBC, and the interview that was interviewing after the business owner saying, hey, so you comply with all the laws that the state and the city have put out? And the guy was like, I know in his mind was like, did you just ask me I'm complying with the law on national TV? And he's just like, I'll be honest with you, I can't keep up with it. I just want to serve people. I just want to feed them food and all this kind of stuff. So they're even struggling themselves, even trying to maintain it. But one of the things they could do if they had a part of this, instead of them breaking out every time the government drops a new law, boom, they can call their attorney and get advice. Hey, what do I need to do? When they're signing contracts with these vendors, hey, what do I do? Debt collection situations. Man, it's just a multitude of things that folks can utilize this service. And I just try to reach people before they get into those situations. That's my ultimate goal. Because I get tired of seeing people go through things and they're paying full price for an attorney, knowing they could have got with us. Even wills, obviously the military, like you said, we have access to JAG, right? We can go in and get a will done. I took it for granted. I didn't realize, I don't know if you noticed, do you know how much the average will costs out there right now?
$1,000?
It's between $500 to $1,000. I talked to the young lady that signed her up and I said, hey, when's the last time you did your will? She said, oh, I just got it updated. She was excited. She was all happy. I said, how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you pay? She said $1,000. I said, did you know I could have saved you $700? She said, wait, how? I said, because a part of our plan is free.
Yeah.
I said, because the membership itself, legal plan, is $299 annually. So I could have saved you $700, plus you could have paid it on a monthly basis. You didn't have to pay it all up front.
Yeah.
Go get a will done on the street. You ain't doing no payment plan with an attorney. They want their money all up front. By the time that document is done, they want their money all up front.
Yeah, you guys are like the Netflix of legal assistance.
Exactly. And I'll share one little, because people say, I don't know if this company's legit. Like, look, if you go to American Bar Association, if you go deep enough, we're actually one of two services mentioned on the American Bar Association.
Okay. So if people are doubting,
legitimacy. Yeah, exactly. Because y'all know A plus rated, Better Business Bureau. I'm just saying, do your research, but it's there. Now, I'm not saying we're perfect. We make mistakes, just like every profession, every thing out there. But here's what I want to leave people with. Even if the attorney's not doing to the level of what I share, what you see on the video, there's no videos we can share it. I don't have to do the actual interview myself.
Right.
Even if that happens and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, we have a recourse. Yeah. You can actually contact legal shield the company and have it intervene because the attorney's not returning your phone calls. That's what you got to do. If you deal with an attorney on the outside, you got a friend that's a hookup, how do you complain? You got to go to Better Business Bureau. You got to go to the state bar or hire another attorney. With Legal Shield, you ain't got to do that. You can just simply pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I got a problem with one of your law firms. I need some help."
Okay.
So you're not really taking a risk. The only risk you take is doing it yourself. And hey, if that's what you want to do you. One last bullet point, because I know we're about to be out of time.
Oh, we ain't out of time. We ain't out of time, man, unless you run out of time.
Oh, no, brother, I'm good.
Okay.
Savings, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's buying stuff for Christmas, right? They even have a program called Members Perks. Through this service, you can actually get access to 400 major vendors, saving money from buying flowers, cars, whatever. We had a couple quick testimonies. They had a member save $700 on a laptop, $4,000 on a new car. And even when we went TDY, I don't know if he was on that one, we went to an NBA game. And two of the IG guys was like, "Hey, Doug, you want to go to the NBA game?" I was like, yeah, let me check my members perks, right? I tried to show off, right? But I was like, oh my goodness, I had never used this part of it because they have an entertainment section where you can get a discount on tickets. They was like, Doug, no, just do that. And we already got the app open. I said, man, just let me do my thing. I'm trying to play it smooth and boast. I was like, I pray to God this works, right? So I go in there, I bought my ticket 5 minutes after they bought their tickets, and my tickets were $30 cheaper, and I was 5 rows closer.
Folks, listen, man.
Bro.
There's a saying, and I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna keep saying it because you know why? It never expires. You know, we got all these great one-liners and stuff, but you know, people never learn, and that's okay, right? So you know, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink unless you drown it, right? So, and it's the nature of why we have existence and purpose, and I think it's baseball stats. You know, like I said earlier, I think as long as you can catch 3 out of 10 from making the mistakes, the other 7 will come back and they'll be like, "Oh, I wish I'd have listened." Right? We got kids, right? How many? Like, dude, man, like, I made it to top 1%. I can't get my son to do one thing, right? So, and that's the unfortunate part because you know I know when I talk to other folks. You know, it's like, man, like how do you manage the gut wrenching, like the fork in your gut is like, please stop walking that way. You're about to fall off the cliff. Or if you only knew, and maybe, I don't know, I'm sure you guys do. The stats, like if maybe you don't, I don't know. Is there a stat that highlights the lessons learned of the people who regret not proactively protecting themselves? And how much money they would have spent with a membership versus how much they paid. You literally just said someone lost $700. That's a data point right there. And that's just one client.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, but I know one thing that on this Kicking It with KJ platform, I'm going to share your message. You absolutely have educated me on why it's important for me. You know, and I don't know if there's a demographic that is better or worse off. Like I have a friend, and she does direct primary care, right? And that's literally the Netflix of medical care. And I love her to death. She's a Leadership Las Vegas alumni, like I am, and I want to support it. But I have VA for life. You know, I just got my 100% disability. Dude, I was 350% total. I don't even know how I'm walking. And then I got TRICARE, and then I had medical through my company. Oh yeah. And I'm like, I don't need to pay a membership fee. You know what I mean? And through my and through my company, I paid for legal assistance. It's like $9 a month, right? And I have the base. And so
Yeah.
it's like it, but the thing is though, is that, I didn't have to sign up for, so I mean, this is the part, maybe I didn't do Legal Shield, right? And this is not me to be counter to what you do. I love what you do, but my instincts, my instincts in my company when I signed up was to sign up for more legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part I think that's the big ding, 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 is that you can never have enough. I think services in your realm are often sought after reactively. And oh, by the way, now you have a ton of debt you got to worry about, versus, you know, you could have reached out proactively without fear or shame if you were still active.
Right.
Bro, I stayed out of the legal office. I hated going on Langley. I got more power of attorneys done. I hated going in there, even for a power of attorney. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, and cause you know, a lot of us, when we think of legal, dude, if anybody's never studied legal, I mean, you know, I got a criminal justice degree where we learned some of the codes and laws, and that's like just scraping it. You know what I mean? There's so many cases and loops and loopholes and different ways to look at it that, you know, you really want people who are experts. And I'm sure like at the IG, our AFIs change all the time. Laws change all the time.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I think you have a service that's kind of like an unsung hero, and it's like leadership, you know, and I just said it earlier, you know, in one of my groups, it was, you know, you invite people in to grow one another and people leave. And I'm like, well, before you leave, share something to make the group better and why you left.
Right.
But people, are people, and they're not always going to be open and transparent as to why they may need your assistant. And we came up in a community where everything has to be free. Let's just be honest.
Right.
Everything has to be free where we came from. And I tell people, like, just because I'm looking out for you and it comes with a price tag, like what I do right now is not monetized. So it's not, my mission is to tell people's story, help you with your, you know, not just you as a story as a vet. I mean, there's a goal to this, but people have to not be lazy. They have to be willing to listen and pull the gold nuggets out that are valuable to them and help you grow. Cause while you grow, then maybe I grow. And nobody sees the value in that, because we're taught to be brothers and sisters while we serve. But then when you retire, you ain't shit. And you spread to the 5 corners of the world, and hopefully there's authentic relationships like ours, whether I've talked to you last in 2016. All right. And now it's 2020. I don't think I don't feel like a heartbeat has been skipped. I haven't missed a beat. It's like we picked up like right off the bat and like, yeah, I remember talking to you when I was getting my my DVD burned and I broke my ankle playing ball because all the haters out there couldn't stop the train. And well, not all the haters, just Corey Ship. But you know, and then I think that's what it is like we are a powerful unit as retirees and veterans in the military community, but we don't I don't think we do a good enough job taking care of and supporting one another. I just don't. Yeah. That may not be true. I have a friend of mine. He looks at it differently, and he's like, "Damn, what vets you run with?" I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because.
But you know what, Chief? It's funny you said it, because there's one of my friends who he was she was trying to get that position on the aircraft, but the last one position he did was a flight attendant, basically. And when he retired, moved down to Orlando, and he was like, man, he said, Doug, you wouldn't believe how many people who kind of almost forgot me. Like, I thought that we'd be buds for life, and we're not. You know, he said it's not, and it's not that it's everybody, like you said, but I thought it would be more people that would do it than not. And so you're right. There's a compartmentalized groups of people that do it, but you would think it would be more arm locking happening out there, because I'm on the veterans page, and I see it on there, and I see people talking about, yeah, I'm about to lose my house, I'm about to do this, and I'm like, dude, what do you mean you're about to lose it? Why I want to ask, why did you wait till late? But when somebody's in the midst, that's not the right time to ask them, right? Help them get through the problem, then ask that question. It just makes me wonder, why would you wait till you get down to that lowest level and then reach out, first of all, on Facebook and then say, hey, I'm at my last list in. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Why didn't you, when you see the writing on the wall, because it's like you're in the house or have a car, when you're not paying your bills. When you're on the brink of something. But again, it's like you said, we're afraid to show our vulnerability, and we wait till that final moment, per se, to say I'm vulnerable. It's like, dude, could you say vulnerable a little sooner? Maybe I don't have to help you get $20,000. Maybe I could have helped you get $500, right?
Well, I think it's because just recently Brene Brown is, when she talks about vulnerability as power, we in the profession of arms, I don't think we look at vulnerability as power. I mean, listen, we could right now go to the Airman NCO Senior NCO page and put something that out there that someone is very vulnerable to, and watch how many people just thrash them.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, like, why would I want to be vulnerable in an environment where I don't even know if people authentically really like me? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm gonna tell you, man. I'm gonna tell you. You hear everything as a chief, and I will tell you, the people who have unfriended me or stabbed me in the back, what I perceive to stab in the back, are the people I've went out of my way to help the most.
Wow.
Because you know why? Because when the student feels like their teacher's pet, and teacher says, "Yeah, you're wrong," that's a sting that they can't handle.
Yeah.
Cause, and I don't know, I don't know if that's a balance of strokes. When we study for promotion, and like, I really didn't study a whole lot in my career. I just got lucky. I honestly would answer the polar opposite what I thought it was. And usually it was right. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I would do. So let me answer the opposite. No, I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, I think I had a leader who told me, she goes, I just think everybody's genuinely doing their best. And I was like, that I agree, but that's not good enough.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. You know what I mean? And because the same people who say that, not her, I mean, the doing your best will only achieve you certain levels of success, which may not necessarily be anything. Right. Mm-hmm. Tell that to Ronnie Coleman. Tell that to LeBron James. Do you think he settled just for doing his best?
Oh my goodness.
Or what are the unsung heroes? The stories of the people who overcame everything. A majority will whine and bitch and say, "I never had opportunity." I don't agree with that. I listened to a motivational speaker who said, "That's unacceptable. You can't give me your best. You have to give me my best to stay in my company, because my best is the gold standard level of excellence that my company provides to customers." And that's honestly, if we wanted to get in a debate on why Popeyes is not the best chicken sandwich compared to Chick-fil-A, we could. And I used to debate this as a leadership topic. They'd be like, how can you say that? And some people adamantly were like, the Popeyes chicken sandwich tastes better. And I said, enduring wise, I doubt it. I said, because if you go to Chick-fil-A, it's consistent, great customer service, great product, and it's fast. Mm-hmm. I said, right. I said,
I'm going to share a story on that one.
Yeah, I'll go to Popeyes and sometimes, you'll be at the ordering window and be like, what the fuck you want? Right. What the fuck you want? Well, you heard, I'm just saying, like, it's like, and let's be real. There's jokes about it that talks about how rude they are. And to me, for Kevin James as a consumer or leader, and I'm sharing philosophy, I will always go to what sustained superior performance or service will always outweigh, a hit or miss good product. Because people will tell you the eating experience sucks if you're treated like shit.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's the funny thing that you mentioned that, right? So before I joined the military, I think I started almost 16, I was 17 when I really got going. I'm gonna just be honest. I was in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. My dad was stationed there at Lowry Air Force Base before they shut it down. And I got a job working at Popeyes. They had just started employee of the month, and the kids around there. I'm just gonna be honest. A lot of them smoke pot. They just wanted a job to get a job. I didn't take it like that. I got employee of the month. I made assistant manager in 3 months, and they was looking to push me to be general manager, right? And they said, "Hey, we're going to send you to Popeye school and all this." And let's catch this now. Even though I was 17 years old, they told me there was a guy that worked there. He has a family. I think one young child is married, struggling marriage, but she's married. And they came to me and literally said, "Mr. Duckworth," or Terrell, because they call me Mr. Duckworth, but they said, "Terrell, hey, we'll give you this job if you're willing to take his job." I said, "Wait, what?" I said, "No, I'm not taking this man's job." Yeah. This man has a family. Now, this is a 17-year-old. I turned it down as a 17-year-old. I said, "If you're going to give me his job, you give me his job because you believe I'm the best and I should be better. I should be working this position, but not at the mercy of this guy." I said, "I'm going to the Air Force. This is not my future," right? They was really going to do it because when I worked Popeyes, let me tell you something. One lady, she forgot her pie. And I literally jumped the counter, ran up the street to the light, and gave her pie. I'm going to tell you right now, I was so good at what I did. People, like I started working the window, then I moved from the window to the second person with the earpiece, right? People used to come to the room and say, "Hey, I want this skinny black guy to take my order." I'm not even joking. People literally come to the window and say that. I'm like, what the hell? And I had to say, "Ma'am, I'm right here. Please work with my people," because they have to learn too. "No, we want you to take it. We want you to take it." But that's how, like you said, what is the best? If you're giving your best, then you're done. So you should never give your best. And one little funny story real quick, I can say this. This one lady came through, and she was white, and she came through. Colorado, most people don't realize, has way more black people than you really think has it. So if you never lived there, you think, "Oh, it's Colorado's mountains, white." No, way more black people think, right? But the bottom line is, this lady came to the window. She's white, and she said she ordered 20-piece nuggets. We didn't have mustard sauce or whatever it was, and she said, "I don't want it. Take it back. Give me my money back." I was like, I'm thinking to myself at that time. I kind of was feeling myself like, I'm like, "Do you know who I am? I'm an employee of the month, lady. I'm the best right here. You're dealing with the best." And she walked away, and I was like, "Oh, she's racist. That's what she's just racist." That's all I thought in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I stepped back and thought about it. I was like, okay, you know what? When that lady comes to this window, she will have her mustard sauce and come to this window. And I just happened on the window that time she came through, and I told the gentleman, I said, "Order 2 boxes of mustard sauce." So I'll make sure the lady has it. When she came to the window, I gave her mustard sauce, and man, after that, she always came and smiled at me. And to get this, trying to find out when she came back through, her husband was black. So I felt like a real idiot, right?
Oh,
but the bottom line is, giving your best. Is that really your best? Can you do more? Can you do one more, right? Are you really giving more? I remember when I was in the military and I failed my PT test. It was when they really started pushing waste management.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 months to PCS, and I said, if you don't pass this test, your orders will get canceled. Now, I was in Alaska, so trust me, I wanted those orders to get canceled. I wanted to stay in Alaska. But I had to take it serious. In 90 days, I even went to the nutritionist class and said, "What do I got to do to lose 3 inches?" They was like, "Son, we can't tell you that, because to tell you, you have to be able to adopt doctor's orders to be able to do something like that. And so we can tell you what to do to start minimizing and helping you, but we can't tell you specifically a game plan to do that." So I came my own. And in 90 days, brother, actually it was in 80 days because I was supposed to be done with 90 days. In 80 days, I lost 3 inches and I lost 30 pounds.
Good job.
And so what that meant was, and what messed me up, because I was on crutches. Back then I used to play ball. You know me. Even before I came to LA, I was playing ball. But what messed me up was Alaska. It's frozen. I don't want to go nowhere. I sat there. I was like, no, I ain't going outside. I stopped playing ball as much. I started getting weight, and I didn't realize how much weight I gained. I went from 180 when I got there to 6 months later, I was 215. So that's how it creeped up on me. But the bottom line is, I injured myself, and I said, how am I supposed to lose that amount of weight in that amount of time? What I started doing was I started giving my best. I stopped making excuses on why I couldn't do it, even on being crushed. Oh, and by the way, I was hurting surgery on my knee in that 80-day span.
Yeah.
How the hell are you going to lose weight with that?
You
What am I
did.
supposed to do? I can't run. I can't swim. I can't even ride a bike. Doing that, the first part of it is now. Once my knee I had my surgery. I was able to get it. I was able to push. But what was my point? My point is sometimes what you think is your best is not. It's just because you settle and you're around those that are settling, and you don't realize you're not with the runners. You're with the walkers. So
Yeah.
sometimes you're not really giving your best. It's just who you're around.
Well, you don't get better unless you challenge yourself, and it hurts. Let's just be real.
It does.
Right? Like
Yeah.
your brain hurts from being academic, your muscles hurt from being a weightlifter, your whole body and cardiovascular system hurts from learning to become a marathon runner. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
just towards the end. Even now, like I said, I about fell out of my chair when I read that old stupid ass, like we're not going to do AC measurements. And I took a snapshot of it. It's in my phone for anyone who questions it. Like, no, that shit was released. Like, because of COVID and stress from the holidays, and we know people are going to enjoy the holidays, we're not going to do an AC measurement when we
But
start doing PT
that's a
testing.
trap game, though.
That's the old.
That's a trap game because once they bring it back, guess what? All that weight you gain, you don't just lose it because you're older, and that weight comes off a lot slower. So anybody that falls to that, don't do it.
Well, I saw plenty of people as soon as that was released who was supposed to PT test. They was up in Taco Bell that night. So
See?
To me, I was like, I said, why would we relax the standard when the AFI wrote says you have to be ready 365 days a year? And
exactly.
And by the way, how many people did we put out who failed that same thing? Now it doesn't matter to you,
man.
And I would have rather just them said, yeah, we're just we're not going to do it no more. Because that's where Chief Wright was headed. Like, because honestly, I mean, there's some value to the fact that people do some very unhealthy things when it comes to dieting to pass. I mean, shit, I did. I mean, but and so I was all for. I'm gonna tell you, I was very much against the AC. I'm not against not doing the AC.
Right.
So when they start up, I'm against the stupid ass reasons that were communicated why they weren't doing it. And to me, it's just more of so the future generations cannot meet our standards, so we will continue to lower it under the excuse of resilient poor guys. I'm like, what happened to warrior ethos? But hey, it is what it is. And, at the end of the day, my opinion is exactly what it is. It's just an opinion of a guy who did his time, and it's going to keep going whether we're there or not. Right. It is now.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't know, brother, but let's end on this note, man. What would you say, if you were trying to inspire the world or your target audience or the airmen, like T. Duckworth, basketball player, legal shield, retired master sergeant, you know what I mean? Community leader. What would you say on a closing note before we wrap up?
Okay. So here's what I would say, right? Obviously, get with Chief. He has my contact details. If you want to know more information about what we do, obviously I gave a snapshot, and I'll get the information to you so you can check it out. Because what I do is I educate. I don't push. Now, people say, well, you're selling me. I sell you on why to watch it, not why to buy. Because this service is month to month. So you can get it this month and not have the next month. I'd rather have somebody that gets it, that wants to keep it, not get it just to turn on and cancel it. So what I encourage people to do is check out the information, ask Chief to get my contact details so I can send you the information and let you make a decision. Because once you see 100% of the information, now we can have an educated conversation. Because if I'm just telling you about it and you see nothing, then I'm selling you. But once you know what I know, all bets on the table. They're right there. So I just want to make sure that from a legal standpoint, from identity theft standpoint, identity theft thieves are really going hard during the Christmas time. So just take a second and just look at it open-minded. If you like it, you like it. Here's what I tell people in closing. The worst thing that's going to happen is we become friends, whether you get the service or not. And I'm not worried about it because I have many people that say, I just had it happen 3 times in the last month. Hey, you still doing the legal thing? I sure am. What questions do you have? I'm not worried about pressuring you to get it. I'm more worried about you being educated on what we got. So if you want watch 100% information and you say no, I'm good. What bothers me is if you won't watch it and you're saying no because I don't need it, what are you saying no to? So all in all, my goal is to help people, put them in the right place, in the right position, so they can make better decisions. So because look, if we're making bad decisions, guess what you're going to do? You're like, hey, Jeff, you got $50 you can borrow? Why are you asking for $50? Because some of the decisions you make, led you to where you are now. And I'm hoping to catch you before you do that. And with that being said, brother, look, Chief, I appreciate this time and opportunity. I love the fact that we started talking about the military and got a chance to share that. And so hopefully airmen will catch something. If you don't catch something from Legal Shield, man, hopefully they catch something from talking about their career and they can use that stuff while they're still serving or make a decision on where they want to go for their future. Well, with that being said, Chief, I turn to you for final words.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. That's big time right there. Some big shoes to fill. So, what I would say is, the teacher appears when the student's ready to learn. So, we can only put it out there, and like Lizzo said, he's your man in my DM. So, how many people, they won't acknowledge you out there, but they'll be up in your DM asking for help. And that's okay too. So please don't take that as a deterrence, but there's going to be people out there, like I said, most can't handle your light. So they turn their back on you, but they stay close because they need your light to warm their backs. I
love that.
And, I learned that through, taking this leap of faith and, hey, it is what it is. It's just the facts. Like I said, I know plenty of people, and this is a call out, not by name, but I would say that there's plenty of people who, in my air quotes, are down for this type of cause of taking care of folks. I still see them sharing all their times back in the day when they served, but I don't see none of this content being shared to their tribe. And I don't know if it's because KJ's doing it and not them, or maybe they just faking the funk. I don't know. I wish I had a cameo beat, but I would say this, brother. Thank you for coming on. All we can do is keep pushing the ball forward. And
yes, sir.
Boy, would we be in trouble if we did not shout out, like Mr. Barry Spells, Mr. Alvin Harris, and of course, Mr. Sexual Chocolate Rodney Cathcart.
Oh my goodness.
AKA
the man right there.
I wasn't gonna say chocolate drop like what them kids called him at the school. But I love that dude.
He gonna crack up when he hears that.
I love that guy, man. But what I would say is, man, life is good. If you're not bobbing your head, you should be. Because another KJ Studio production with my man, the legend, Terrell Duckworth from KJ Studios. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to listen, watch, like, subscribe, and share. Let's build each other. And Terrell, I appreciate you, brother. And thank you for creating a community of care the same way we created a community of consumption. I'm out.